This video features the melodic dictation exercise. Specifically, we'll be listening to part of Mozart's Divertimento number 14 from k.270. I'm going to use this particular melodic dictation to illustrate one possible procedure for taking melodic dictation. You can break the task of writing down a melody into a number of steps. For instance, you can use the first hearing to identify the meter and the mode, particularly if you're not given that information in advance. Next, it helps to listen for big picture. This includes things like how many phrases does the passage have? Where do we have cadences? What kind of cadences are they? How long is the passage? Both in terms of approximate balance of the phrases and in terms of the exact number of measures given the meter you've chosen to write it in. Step 3, it's helpful to find the starting and the ending pitches. This, of course, is assuming that before that you find tonic. Identifying those anchor points, the starting pitch and the ending pitch, can be really useful, again, to not get lost in the process of trying to listen to the entire thing. You do not have to work from start to finish. It's useful to listen to the end, especially since the end is usually fairly easy to pick out. Next, you might consider writing the rhythm, especially if writing both the rhythm and the pitch at the same time feels a little bit overwhelming. It's also helpful to listen for structural pitches. Where does tonic return? Where does dominant return? Are there any other anchor points that stick out to you over the course of the melody? And then, of course, eventually we want to get to the point where you finish the notation, all of the rhythm is there, all of the pitches are there, everything is beamed correctly with stems in the correct direction, all those sorts of things. So let's actually try this together. Step 1, identify the meter and the mode. Separately, I've provided a recording of the Mozart passage. Please pause this video and go listen to that recording, focusing specifically on the oboe line, as that is what we will be writing out together. As you likely noticed, this is in some sort of simple meter, likely a duple meter, possibly a quadruple meter. Specifically, the way Mozart wrote this out is it's in 2/4, which is what we are going to do. You likely noticed that this is a major key, and since we're going to be writing this out in 1 flat, this is F major. And one other thing to notice in terms of just the number of measures is that this opening measure up here is a half measure. So this starts on beat 2 of the measure. That means, of course, that when we get to the very end of the passage that we're only going to have 1 beat here, because the pickup bar plus the final bar will equal a whole bar. Next, now that we have an idea of our meter and our mode, listen for how many phrases you hear. And at the end of each of those phrases, see if you can figure out what kind of cadences there are. We already have the length, of course, but it never hurts to remind yourself of how long each phrase is. So once again, please pause this video and go listen to that recording and see if you can figure out how many phrases we have and where there are cadences. Here's what you should have come up with. This passage features 2 phrases. They are the same length, namely 4 measures long. So we have a pickup getting us into the beginning of bar 4. That downbeat here features a half cadence. And I have this little comma marking that as the beginning of our second phrase. So once again, we have a pickup leading into the beginning of the second phrase, and that second phrase ends with perfect authentic cadence. In addition to noticing that there are 2 phrases in this passage, you likely also notice that those 2 phrases are fairly similar to one another. This is one of the reasons why it's very useful to listen for big picture first and then work on the details. If you notice that the first substantial section of both these phrases is identical, it drastically reduces your workload. Next, on this next hearing, focus on finding starting and ending pitches if you have not already done so. Figure out where tonic is, and then see if you can figure out the solfege for both the starting and the ending pitches. Once again, please pause the video and go listen to the recording again. In this case, the starting pitch is do, the F in this case, of course, and the last pitch is do. Now, I know this looks a little bit funny. This F here is an 8th note. It'll eventually appear correctly as an 8th note when we see the rest of the notation, just because of the way I hid the downbeat note is a little bit different. And as we talked about earlier, the second phrase starts the same as the first, so I went ahead and included the starting pitch for that second phrase as well. Step 4, go ahead and work on writing the rhythm. Again, pause this video, listen to the recording at least one more time. If you need a couple more hearings in order to finish the rhythm, then go ahead and complete that as well. This is what you should have come up with. This is the rhythm of the passage. And just to sort of solidify our understanding of this rhythm, let's go ahead and read through it together on counting syllables. So I will give you a full bar, a half bar, and then we're in on counting syllables. 1, te, 2, te, 1. 2, te, 1, ta, te, ta, 2, te, 1. 2, te, 1, ta, 2, ta, te, ta, 1, ta, te, ta, 2, te, 1, ta, te, ta, 2, te, 1. 2, te, 1, ta, te, ta, 2, ta, te, ta, 1, te. Next, write the structural pitches. In this example, you'll notice that there are several repeated notes and there are some anchors that fall on the beat. So on this next pass through the melody, I would like you to focus on getting notes that fall on a beat and any repeated pitches that you happen to notice. Again, pause this video and go listen to the recording. Your paper should look something like this. Go ahead and take a minute and check your work against what is provided here. And then when we're ready, move on to step 6, namely finish the notation. Again, pause this video. You should be very close to finishing up the melody by this point, but again, take as many hearings as you need in order to be relatively secure in your solution, finishing this melody up. And here is our final melody written out on the staff. Again, in order to solidify your understanding of this melody, it's useful to sing through this on solfege. So let's go ahead and do that together. I'm guessing that, like me, you are probably not going to be able to sing this in the octave that it is written in. So please, as always, adjust octaves depending on what is comfortable for your voice. I'll be singing it down an octave from where written. Let's sing through this together. Here's your do. 1, 2, 1. Do, 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 ti, la, sol, do, do, fa, mi, la, ti, do, la, re, do, ti, la, sol, do, ti, la, sol, do, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, re, do, ti, la, ti, do. So I hope this video was useful not only in gaining practice in a melodic dictation, but also in unpacking some of the steps that you might use to go about taking a melodic dictation.